So I was going through the Y Combinator startups directory, and I don't know, I'm not sure if I found this white paper from there, but this is amazing. Uh, the title is "Why We Should Train AI in Space," right? So it's issued from Lumen Orbit Incorporation, Ezra Felden, PhD, Adi Oltian, and Philip Johnston. I really appreciate these guys. Like this is the amazing read feasible report I came across in the last 3 or 4 months. I mean the feasibility report, the comparison, everything is just amazing. I'll give you the gist of it. So the idea is the energy demand is like higher than ever before, and with the current resources, we are just unable to cope up with this demand of energy, right? Because our vehicles are going like going to operate using electricity, our data and especially the data centers, right? And this paper is specially written for that matter. Okay, so the idea is to build the data centers in the space. What's the feasibility? Like, what do you think, guys? What should be the feasibility of being building data centers in the space? I mean, you look at the different statements from Sam Altman, from Mark Zuckerberg, from SpaceX, right? So the most favorite one is from the SpaceX, which says the amount of power to run compute by 2045 will be the base power of the planet right now, right? The drain on resources is so high, you need to put the compute in space and use the power of the sun. That's really good use of space to help save the planet. Okay, so this is really a good idea. This is and I believe this is where these guys come up with this idea and they made this feasibility report. So this is the general. So this is a graph like we are moving like we are moving in the era of like moving towards the era of gigawatts, where we need a huge production system for the electricity. So we're expecting the increase maybe till 200 to 50 or 300 gigawatts till 2045. These numbers can be exaggerated, but I mean we will be nearly around these numbers. So everybody knows that. So why data centers in space? What like how they're differ from the data centers in terrestrial space, like from Earth, right? So it says orbital data centers offer several fundamental benefits compared to their terrestrial counterparts, especially when scaled to gigawatt sizes. Significant operational cost savings can be achieved by using inexpensive solar energy without the limitation of terrestrial solar farms discussed below. Right, so orbital data centers can leverage lower cooling systems. So one thing, I'll first discuss a few of the things that currently we face when we set up a energy production system here on Earth, right? So let's say if even if you make a solar power plant, right? So eventually you have to shift the energy, the electricity on a grid. And once you put it on the grid, the emission of greenhouse gases is certain, right? So even if we claim that we are producing the clean green energy, but still, when it going through the process, we still contributing like we still emitting the greenhouse gases, right? Let's discuss about the uranium, like fusion thing, right? It uses a lot of fresh water for the cooling system. We all know that. Although it's a clean energy, although it doesn't directly contribute towards any sort of a pollution, but when it goes through the process, it goes through the whole system, and we the energy produced at that setting until it reached to where it is required, where it is demanded, there's a lot of points where it actually contributes towards pollution, right? Uranium does, like we use a lot of fresh water for the cooling system, and whenever we put it on the grid, it always emit greenhouse gases. So So that's why, like, even if they claim that we are producing the clean energy, although, like, first of all, they are not meeting the demand that are going to be in the future. That's very certain. I mean, and we eventually have to come up with a breakthrough. All right. So one of the big, and I believe that this is going to happen. Like, this is certain. I believe it's going. This is going to be the case. Like, we are going in the space and we are building data centers there, right? So let's go through the report, and they have made a very tremendous, very excellent kind of a comparison table. I'll go directly there. So this is the comparison, the cost comparison of a single 40 megawatt cluster operated for 10 years in space versus on land, right? So this is what the table is. So we're comparing for next 10 years. So let's go about it. So energy for 10 years. On Earth, we almost need $140 million at the rate of 0.04 per kilowatt hour, where it's $2 million cost of the solar array, right? So launch, of course, if we are on the Earth, we don't need any sort of a launch, so it's the cost is none. Where it's $5 million when we are moving towards space. Cooling system, more efficient cooling architecture, taking advantage of the higher temperature difference in space. So now here's the thing: in the space, uh, the exposition of the sun on the solar panel arrays is for 24 by 7, of course, because there's no daylight. Like, we can easily manipulate the day night cycle in the space. And then there's no attenuation, there's no atmospheric changes. The temperature, the weather is almost constant throughout the time in the space. So there's no such sort of a concern that we have to deal with, right? So this is one thing. And then if we look at the counterpart, which is on Earth, that's the opposite case. Like, we don't like, if you look at the capacity factor formula, having a capacity factor greater than 50% is not even possible on Earth just because of the day night cycle alone, right? So we're always going to be less than 50%. So that's the case on Earth, right? And I'm just putting aside the atmospheric fluctuations and all the intensity of the sunlight, even during the clear light, because in the space we can manipulate that, and we can set our arrays in such a way that it's going to be at the 90 it's going to be orthogonal to the sun rays throughout the day, like 20, and the day is going to be for 24 by 7, right? So the exposition of the sun is like available. So now I think you could like better understand now what's going to be the cost ratio, like the cost benefit analysis, right? So water usage is not required in the space, while it is heavily required on its counterpart enclosure. So bus building is almost have the similar cost of even in the planet or on Earth. Backup power supply. So we don't really need in the space, right? All the data centers hardware approximately equal. Radiating shielding not required on the Earth, but it is required. It's going to be there in the space. So I'll also explain the radiation shielding. So basically, what we are doing is, because of the high intensity, we it can affect the solar cells. So what we are going to do is we need a black shield. Maybe, like, for example, if you take 1 by 1 or 1 meter into by 1 meter black shield back and forth on the both sides, it can easily radiate around 383 approximately watts of sunlight, right, from one space to another. Like, due to the temperature difference, it can easily do that, right? So if you look at the cost balance, the cost on Earth is around 167 million dollars, where it is 8.2 million dollars in the space. So that's going to be the case. And of course, scalability. We can easily see the structure in the space once built and once operated, we can easily scale it to any extent. I mean, And also like GPD, like we know what GPD is, right? So the for the next transformers that we are going to build, the energy required for those transformers are going to be of huge demand, of huge amount, right, in gigawatts, and we don't really have those resources available at the moment. So it's going to be like it's the full stop. If we are not moving, if we are not moving towards space, and if we are not going to get any breakthrough in the energy sectors, that's going to be our limitation, the biggest limitation. We can't move further. To move further, we need to come up with the ideas that like maybe like this is one. And I think I'm 100%, as I said before, like we are going into the space, get ready engineers and all those stuff that associated with this field. Like I'm one of them, so I'm really excited to go into the space, and I see myself in the space, inshallah. So the next LLMs, to train the next LLMs, so we need, so that's going to exceed the capacity of the largest power plant in the US, right? And some of the largest operational power plants in the world. These clusters are therefore simply not possible with today's energy infrastructure. At the time, these clusters will be essential to train next generation AI models of the future. So, I mean, that's going to be the case. And there are a lot of other um, benefits of like building data centers in space. And you can go through this white paper, which is being issued from the Lumen Orbit Incorporation. That's amazing. Shout out to these guys, of course. And inshallah, I'll be working on that continuously. And yeah, if there's anything new about it, I'll of course updating. Like I make videos, so I'll make a video on that too. So good luck, everyone. Let's meet some other day.